Omaha's news leader, chronicling the stories and people making a difference in our community. This is KETV News Watch 7's Chronicle.
Entire juvenile court system is more than just the kids that we have charged with crimes. This is about families. This is about mothers and fathers and foster care system.
If we weren't putting the money into alternatives, they would have a valid point. But the state law has changed to push the system to have alternatives, and the state law says, in essence, that detention is not a good place for kids that don't need to be there. I think people understand and have a general concern for the youth of our community.
Good morning, I'm David Earl. Thanks for joining us for KETV News Watch 7's Chronicle. This morning, we're having a conversation about juvenile justice and the plans for a new center and programming for Douglas County kids. We've talked about plans for the new building a lot over the past year. These are the renderings of what the Justice Center and Juvenile Detention Facility will look like right across the street from the courthouse at 17th and Harney. Part of this effort is a new focus on programming, and today we'll talk to a few local organizations who want to work with kids and teens who commit crimes, keeping them in safe spaces in the community instead of locking them up. But before two elected boards signed off on the final plans, there was a fight over the building and where it would go. For a look at how we got to where we are today, here's KETV News Watch 7's Alexander Stone.
The conversation about building a new juvenile justice center started years ago, but in April of 2018, Douglas County was ready to make an offer for the Omaha Housing Authority headquarters at 18th and Harney and the building just south of it. The county wanted to demolish both buildings and build the center there. Commissioner Jim Kavanaugh thought the full plan was too expensive. Then another roadblock from the owner of the 420 building on Howard.
They thought the building was vacant and that it was not a good building, that it should be just demolished.
Bob Perrin didn't want to sell his historic building. The county tried to take it through eminent domain, so Perrin took the battle to court. Meanwhile, Commissioner Kavanaugh wanted a new plan.
I have hope that once we outline an alternative that's better, less expensive, and serves the purposes of the taxpayers and the children involved, that we'll have other people come on board.
Kavanaugh wanted to keep the Douglas County Youth Center where it is at 42nd and Woolworth, then use the two buildings the county already bought for the courthouse and attorneys. Judges in the eminent domain case said everyone needed to shift their focus to the children.
You need to build kid-friendly spaces that are inviting, and I would hope that you would, in your planning process, consult with the American Academy of Pediatricians.
County commissioners changed course last December, deciding to buy the MUD building for $6 million. That adds to the two buildings the county already owns at 18th and Harney. Then last month, the county board and the Omaha City Council approved funding for a courthouse annex and new juvenile justice center at that same location. The price tag more than $114 million.
And that was Alexander Stone reporting. Douglas County Commissioner Chris Rogers has been an advocate for juvenile justice reform. He's here with us this morning. Chris, thanks for being here.
Good morning.
So that was the story of how we got to where we are today. But beyond that, beyond the building and the money to construct the building, there really is a philosophical shift here in how people want to approach juvenile justice. Can you tell me when that started and how that became a conversation here in Douglas County?
Right. You know, the building was the easy part. It started back in 2007. Our current detention center at that point had a capacity of 144 beds. We were running for about a year an average of approximately about 210, 215 kids in the facility because one, they were staying there for an exorbitant amount of times because we didn't have the services there in the community to serve them. So the county did a study. And from that study, we found out that there were several ways that we could fix our justice system. And from that point on, with some help from the legislature, the willingness of the county board and the players inside, we've been on for about the last 10, 11 years, a quest to reform the juvenile justice system. Along the way, we became a juvenile detention alternative initiative site, JDI for short. JDI is a prescriptive process that's used around the country to reduce detention. As a part of that, you become a part of a network, and we were assigned a sister county. That was Multnomah County, where Portland was the county seat. That's the first place where we saw an all-in-one facility, and from that point on, we were trying to see how we can get there. So bring us to this point. We had some other sister counties that we worked with and were familiar with around the country. One was Ramsey County in St. Paul, Minnesota, and they had the same philosophy, so we went on the point then of trying to get there.
And so you guys actually took a trip up to Ramsey County to see what they were doing there, and there were a lot of local community leaders on that trip. I mean, we're talking about the police chief, the county attorney, people from city council. So what did you guys see up there that they were doing to reform juvenile justice?
Well, one, they had the political will of the board to really change the system. Two, they put a lot of money and investment up front. They took about $500,000 out their existing budget and put it up front in the system. And so what they were going to do was to build a joint bigger facility. What they did, because they already had a correlated facility, they put the emphasis on reducing the population down and trying to really put services into the community with the families.
What you saw up there, can it happen here in Douglas County? What's the evidence to show that what they're doing there can work in our community too?
One, their state law is in line, and over the last 10 years, the legislature has been working with us to constantly put statutes in law to try to change that. Two, they're a county of similar size. The board had the will, and all the players, they were going the same direction, and they were a JDOT site, and they're about 5 years ahead of us. So there were a lot of similarities, but the important thing is you had the political will and you had people there ready to move in the system.
So they're about 5 years ahead of where we are right now.
Yep.
What's the outcome been for that county? What are the results that they're seeing?
So basically for their detention center, they had at the last point I checked somewhere like 6 kids in there. And then they had a second facility that they use for rehabilitative purposes. They are planning to close that facility down and convert kids and services totally into the community. So their philosophy is trying to keep the kid in home and bring services to the home to make sure that the kid is served.
So if they're 5 years ahead and they're doing all of these things that a lot of critics have complained about or raised questions about as to whether or not it's appropriate to eliminate detention for some of these kids. What are they seeing there 5 years ahead of where we are? Was any of that fear realized in Ramsey County about kids not having the appropriate supervision?
No, it wasn't, because before they made that, they had the investment in the alternatives and they had the point to do that. Monday was a pivotal day here for us in the state of Nebraska. What was LB 1112/LB 670 is now statute 42-251.01, which basically says a kid can no longer be in detention because of a lack of placement. And so that starts us on a trajectory to have programs available and make sure that kids that don't need to be in detention aren't there. The thing that makes it possible to some degree, and each county is different, but the basic fact is the blueprint and the process is the same. That the political will is here, the money is here for the alternatives, and the combination of state law is there to make the system come. And we've got willing partners at the table willing to increase their capacity and change some things they're doing program-wise. I
want to ask you this question. Do you think there are kids right now in DCYC who don't belong there right now, and what are they in there for?
Yeah, on today the count is 75 as we're talking today. On any given day, 15 to 20% of the kids in there are really the kids that need to be there, meaning there's a difference between juvenile and adult. In juvenile, Nebraska system of juvenile justice is totally rehabilitative. And the Douglas County facility is really a holding facility. If you're a kid that really did a serious offense, which is probably, like I said, 15 to 20%, you're waiting to be adjudicated in juvenile court and be transferred over to the youth prison over in East Omaha with the state. Other than that, everybody else in there is waiting for services. And so that's the point that we're at now, providing those services. And we made some strides, and people have made some commitments to help us get there.
But are there kids in DCYC right now who are there only because they've been truant or misdemeanor shoplifting, things like that?
Not there because they're truant or that. You know, state law says that kids that are status offenders and truants can no longer be there. What we have is kids that are sitting in there because of lack of capacity for behavioral health and mental health services, kids that are waiting to go to certain facilities that don't have the capacity right now to open up. So because of the law that was passed last year and went into effect on Monday, state probation has been working over the last year to work with local agencies to increase the capacity and make other services available so kids can go to and not go to detention.
Okay. There's been some pushback on this effort, and some of the criticism has come from the Omaha Police Officers Association. I want to put up a graphic here of one of their Facebook posts where they're saying, of course, that we need rehabilitation, we need programming, but they say here true rewards for good behavior and true consequences for bad behavior. That's what needs to happen to juveniles too. How would you respond to that criticism?
The point is that the time of lock up and throw away the key is over. They have one phase in the system, but the phase, and science has said over the years, that a kid that spends one day in detention when they don't have to can come out worse. We're not, the case that we're making is not for the 15 to 20 kids that really need to be there. It's for the 50 kids that don't. And so the kind of implication that you're letting serious offenders out on the street is not the case. We're taking them through the process. What we're getting at is the 50 or so kids that don't need to be in there. So when they even make the case of saying that the facility is too small, you truly only have 20 that need to be there. So we will more than be able to hold the kids that are serious risk to the public.
Let's talk about the funding aspect of this. It's interesting, you and I were talking, there's a conservative argument to be made here on the funding side for juvenile justice reform, right?
It is. Basically, it cost us about a little more than $300 a day for a kid to be in detention. Services and alternatives are far less. So in the long term, it will be less for the system to be able to serve those kids, and you have a better chance of reducing that kid coming back. The main reason a lot of the kids come back is because the lack of services and the ability to serve the family. This is part of a change that we've been trying to do for the last 10 years to serve the kid and the family, so you can make sure that services are at home and they don't have to have that service in an atmosphere that is proven to be detrimental to their development.
Quickly here, the last question I have for you. What's your pitch to people who maybe don't feel this issue on a personal level? Why should they care about it? Why is juvenile justice reform important for Douglas County?
No matter what your circumstances, your social place in society, every juvenile is in threat because kids at times make stupid decisions. And no matter where you're at, you could be one of those kids caught up in that decision. The main philosophy that the members of the board have had with this is, what if it was my kid? What would I want for my kid? And that's the guiding philosophy that we are. If it was my kid, I would want that kid to have a chance to reform and be able to have a second chance. And that's the approach that we've taken on it. All kids, if you're a juvenile, are at risk, and we want to make sure they're served.
Chris, thanks for the conversation today. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Nice
Appreciate
to have you on. Still ahead, a new Nebraska law, we just talked about it, changes how authorities deal with children and detain them. We're going to talk more about what is in that law and talk with representatives from different programs that help kids and how they can be an alternative to detention. You're watching KETV News Watch 7's Chronicle.